guest is Christine Lombardo-Zahn, who is an attorney mediator here at the Alpha Center, helping our clients get through the whole divorce program and trying to move on. Moving on also encompasses co-parenting for people who come in with children. There's custody, there's support, there's times, there's visits, there's vacations, there's like a lot of stuff, school things, etc. And it can be difficult. Many parents are able to just work together, but sometimes they're not. So Christine's going to talk a little bit today about how do you co-parent with a spouse you hate. And it seemed to me like hate was a really strong word, but I guess they do bring a lot of flack into your life. So I'll let you take it on.
Thank you, Barbara. And yes, hate is, I actually used that word on purpose. I don't like that word. I don't like using it, and I don't like feeling it, to be honest. But the truth is that we have two types of co-parents. We have co-parents that just don't like each other because of personality differences or whatnot, or maybe minor mental health issues that go unaddressed. The other type of co-parents we have are ones where there's parental alienation going on. And I've done a couple segments with Barbara on that, so you can certainly refer back to parental alienation. But the topic today is, how do you co-parent with that person that you really don't get along with? And in parental alienation cases, I will tell you, things get so challenging and difficult that sometimes you really hate that person. That's how bad it gets. And so we want to try and offer you today some tips on, what are the most effective co-parenting techniques or tips, okay? And I'll try and address for both types of parents. So the first one is kind of a no-brainer in a sense. Take a co-parenting course. If you file for a custody action in a court, most of the times the courts are going to order you to take a co-parenting class. Mm-hmm. I know in my local county, when I was advising clients, I said to them, listen, take it. I know you're a good parent, but if you learn one thing out of this co-parenting course, that's a success. And believe it or not, when they went in with that attitude, they came out feeling a little bit more empowered, a little bit more confident, and a little bit more excited in a sense that, or hopeful that they were going to be able to co-parent effectively. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely number one. Another thing to understand is that the tips that we're giving, and I should always do this disclaimer early, is that there is no right or wrong answer. Mm-hmm. So some of these tips might work for you, some of them might not, because each case is very unique. And I always say in divorce, you never know where it's going to rear its ugly head. You don't know. So you kind of have to just, some of this will be trial and error, and mm-hmm. if it doesn't work, don't beat yourself up and just say, okay, that didn't work. Let's see if I can try something new. Mm-hmm. With co-parenting, you have to realize that, and this came from Dr. Sherry Steins. She's written a lot about parental alienation and co-parenting. And, she says that you should prepare for battle. Okay, it kind of goes along with that hate word. And again, I don't like that. I try to minimize the adversarial nature of divorce and co-parenting. However, if you're in a situation with someone who is difficult and you can't get along with them, even if you try, then you kind of have to have that mindset. Mm-hmm. You have to prepare for battle, which means you need to be prepared, and you always need to be on high alert because you never know when the ambush is coming.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, but not being prepared is even worse.
Exactly, for sure. So another tip is, keep it legal. And that doesn't mean going necessarily through the court system. At Alpha Center, it's one of the things I love doing is working with clients to mediate resolutions. And one of the things you can do is hire a mediator to develop a parenting agreement. Mm-hmm. by having a parenting agreement, and I know, Barbara, you've published quite a bit on this for our clients and future clients, but having that piece of paper is really important. It sets the ground rules. It's the rules of engagement. Everybody knows what's expected of them.
Yeah, and even with parents who are fairly amicable, in doing the parental mediation agreement, the certified therapists that we use have seen it all, heard it all. So they will say, like, well, how about this situation? How do you want to handle this? How do you want to handle that? And it brings to the forefront all of those little things that you think are never gonna crop up. And it's not that it's a problem, but it's addressed, just like you said.
Well, and those little things that you don't think of do crop up, because that's why there's lawyers and that's why there's therapists. They do crop up. And so they're a very valuable resource. It is money well spent, because now you have something in writing, and it's not permanent. You can change it anytime, as long as the parties both agree. And it's something that will grow with the children. So it will change. It's a fluid document. But it's enforceable, so that if one parent definitely goes rogue, then the other parent can use that as an enforcement tool. Okay, ultimately, but hopefully protecting the children.
Right.
But it is there to protect the parents and their rights as well. So, okay, those are some common sense ones, things that people probably could research on their own and understand. But I've done a little bit of extra digging, and I found it very interesting that one of the tips I learned for co-parenting is, shower the kids with unconditional love and acceptance, right? And I was thinking first to myself, oh God, here we go, rainbows and unicorns again, right? Well, there's an author out there, and his name is Mike Jeffries. He wrote a book called A Family's Heartbreak, A Parent's Introduction to Parental Alienation. And in this book, he talks about this tactic, if you will, for lack of a better word, of showering the children with love and affection and just always positive, could potentially backfire if you're in a situation where you're an alienated parent. And even if you're not in an alienating situation, even if you have a difficult parent who might just be manipulative, or you have kids that are manipulative, they may prey on that and they might use that against you. So yes, you want to remind the kids that you love them and they're safe and accepted, all of that. But I don't think you need to go over the top and get crazy and do it every single minute of every single day. I think you need to be real. And I know I put that in one of my other videos, but you need to be true to who you are. Okay. And there are parents that try to buy the children with co-parenting. Okay. And I will tell you from this, I have a client actually who, because I will never advise, puppies, duckies, rainbows, and unicorns. I'm not going to advise that for all the time. I think you need to be true to who you are as a person, because people can sniff through the fakeness. Right? Even children are very smart. And if you ask any therapist, they're going to tell you that these kids are very smart. We don't give them enough credit. But one of my clients, he said when he's with the children, he gives 100% attention to them. He's present. That doesn't mean he's giving warm fuzzies all the time, but he's giving them 100% attention. And he's sharing his values, if you will. And Dr. Steins, she wrote about this, and she said, these are intangible values that, over time, like in the short run, probably aren't going to be fun, right? And they're not going to be well received by the kids. But in the long run, the kids are going to come back and thank you for it. And some of those are love, security, strength, kindness, presence, healthy attachment, and an abuse-free environment. These values, by demonstrating them, by leading by example, right? By not even saying anything, just by doing, probably more valuable than an iPhone or a PlayStation.
probably true. I mean, of course, and not that like you said, it's not going to be immediate. You know, it's you don't get to eat the fruit the same day that you plant the bush. So, but
Right.
but in the
Well,
long run, the
yeah.
children have a structure now.
I had another client who, I told her, be true to who you are. And the kids were not living with her. But then something happened with the other parent, because there's always going to be a fight. And then the kid's going to be like, I want to go live with the other parent. So the child said, can I come stay with the mom? Mom said, fine. And the mom continued to live as she was living, right? And the child saw how the mom was living and said, you know what? This is different. This is really comfortable, and they picked up on that. And you could tell that their stress level was reduced.
Oh, wow.
And so, literally that leading by example is really powerful. And if you're one of those people that's taking these tips and you're meditating and you're taking care of yourself physically and you're eating well, the kids are going to feed off of that. And they're going to see that good energy and they're going to gravitate toward it. And I think most of the therapists talk about that.
Oh, that's an interesting. Yeah, I mean, they do. They watch you. Children watch you.
Right.
They're like little sponges.
Well, and they do pay attention, and so it's very, very important. Another big co-parenting tip, which again is probably common sense, but for those of you out there that just aren't thinking clearly, because listen, I've been through it, and it's very stressful. Sometimes you really cannot think clearly, and that's why we're doing these videos to help you, maybe catch something you missed. So this is a big one, and it's putting it in writing. Mm-hmm. So when you communicate with someone you don't get along with, you're probably not going to be able to have phone calls with that person. And as an attorney, I would advise you not to do that, right? Put it in writing. Either use email, or better yet, there's some, in my blog, there are some apps that I found through the Parenting Magazine. They listed like the top 8, which were wonderful. You can download one of these apps and use them. And the courts actually are very amenable to this. So if you are in the court system, these apps work really well. They're very well received, but it captures everything and it keeps everybody probably being on their best behavior.
Absolutely true. In fact, I've looked at several of them just to kind of get a feel for what they're all about. And many of them have a little bit of an editing situation where if somebody is kind of ranting and raving and starting to use foul language or threatening or something like that, they actually put something up there and say, are you sure you really want to say this?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So they actually tell them, bring it down, and just stick to the facts. And so that's interesting. And I'm guessing that the reason is that it's in writing. So everything is a record.
It is a record and it can be used as evidence. So it's really important. The only caveat with this is you want to make sure that the kids do not see these communications. That is not for their eyes. It is not their problem, and it's not their business. And so, a co-parent should not be discussing conversations with the other co-parent. It really should stay out of the kids, period.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're usually dealing with enough just with the divorce.
Yes, for sure. And then finally, I, as I say in most of my other videos, you really need to take time to care for yourself and be forgiving, because you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you're going to slip up, you're going to curse, you're going to get angry. Forgive yourself and try and correct it the best way you can and learn from it and move on. But make sure you're getting enough sleep, make sure you're eating well, play the Zen music if you have to. I personally, you can see my diffuser right here. Sometimes you need to put the lavender in there to kind of calm things down or get tranquility. There's different flavors. Whatever it is, eat ice cream once in a while, like treat yourself, but take care of yourself.